welcome to Pecan Corner. I'm Tina, and today I'm going to make beef Stefatto. I was going to make beef stew for supper tonight. It's gotten cold, but I didn't have any carrots. I don't know why I'm out of carrots. I'm never out of carrots, but today I'm out of carrots. So I'm going to make a recipe. It's supposed to be a Greek dish called beef Stefatto. And I'm going, whoops, I forgot something. Let me go get my, okay, there we go. Now then, so I'm going to use my food storage to make this. We had to clean out our freezer and make some room in it this summer. And so as a result, I canned a lot of meats that I don't normally can. And one of the things I canned was some brisket. I raw packed this, and of course brisket is really fatty, especially, you can tell the difference. This was probably off of the, what's the lenient called, Paul? The point? The point. And then this bit here was probably off of the flat, which is a lot more marbled and has a lot of fat in it. There's a lot of fat floating on top of these, so I'm going to take that out. I'm not going to leave that in our stew. There we go. I'm going to put this, I'm going to do this first. I'm going to get this to going while because I want to, I'm still a little bit chicken about canning some meats, but this, it all worked great. It just all worked really well this year, so I'm pretty happy with how it came out. Now then, I'm just going to scoop this fat off the top into this bowl, and then I'm not going to put it down the sink. I'm going to put it into a container and dump it into the trash. There we go. Yep, hardly any fat in that one. A couple of tablespoons. This one, and it's harder. The fat that's on this side is a lot harder. More solid. It's whiter colored. That's interesting. There's nothing wrong with good fat. I just don't want to use it in this case and in this dish. And it's really not a good idea to can fats. They don't. They just don't keep as well as other things. That's why we don't can nuts anymore, except as part of a conserve. They say they can do. It's not that they are so bad if you process them properly. It's just that fat goes rancid when it's in well, I can't remember the word for it now, where there's no oxygen, an environment where there's no oxygen. Okay, now then, we'll set that aside, get rid of that later. And I just cut the meat into pretty sizable chunks. I'm just going to pour it into my pot here, and well, let me bring it here where you can see. It'll save me. My camera was acting up, and it's just giving me fits all summer. I couldn't really make any videos unless I was holding it, because about every 30 seconds it would quit, and so I'd have to turn it back on. I broke down and bought a new one. Bought the same kind that I had before, the Sony Handycam. Super camera. I don't think she has her channel up anymore, but Jen over at Girls Like Guns 2 is who advised us about it originally, and she did a good job. All right, now then. Now I will. These chunks are pretty decent size, but I think I will cut them just a little bit smaller. Few of them, just separate them. Oh, look at that, so tender, just fall apart. I'm not going to put them into too small pieces, because I think during the cooking they may separate a little bit more. So I think I'll just a couple that are larger will I cut up a little dab. Yeah, that's all that. These are just as tender as can be. Okay, now then, get that washed. Get my hands clean here. Laid my knife on that counter. I usually just wash them as I go. I don't ever put a knife down in the dishwater or down in the sink. I don't want to risk getting hurt. Anybody cutting themselves. Okay. Now then, we need a chopped onion and 2 cloves of garlic. I've got this recipe actually calls for a pound of pearl onions on top of the chopped onion that we're going to use, but jalapeno pepper. But I don't have any of those, so I'm going to use a separate onion, and I'm going to add it. I'm going to brown it and add it later on when the cooking's nearly complete on this. Now, because the meat is already done, this doesn't have to cook for hours, you know, like it would if you were starting out with raw beef. But it does need to cook for a while just for the flavors to blend. So I have about 1 medium onion here. It was a pretty good sized onion, and I have most of it left. Some of it already chopped from a meal that we cooked the other day, and I didn't need very much of it. We did something, Paul, and I needed some fresh onion for it. What was it? Oh, that something that you wanted. Oh, the
beans.
The beans. Yeah. We had beans, and Paul wanted fresh chopped onions on his. There we go. There we go. All right, now then, there we go. And let's get this started to simmering. Let's get some of my. This is what's left of my homegrown garlic. I had 3 braids of it. I didn't plant a whole lot, so I had 3 braids of it to start the year with, and I'm down to just about the right time. We plant our garlic here in well, anytime from now, which is late October, through December, but it's best if it's planted in sometime in November, so just a few weeks and I'll be planting it again. I just braided it and hung it here in the kitchen, and it's done a good job of lasting now without sprouting, whereas in the fridge it seems like it sprouts. I just use I just plant grocery store garlic for the most part. Although my friend Deborah has started growing seed garlic of very special varieties, and for those who can taste the difference, I can't. I seem to have a lack when it comes to being able to taste the difference between types of garlic. But so I'll have and she's offered me some, and so I have a source for some interesting varieties to be able to plant. So I'm going to do, these are kind of small cloves, so cloves are 2 cloves. These are kind of small, so I'm going to use 3. Plus, you know, it's garlic after all. I follow Bob Anderson's instructions for how to plant the stuff when I plant it, and that's just always worked really well for me. I always have good germination and good harvest. His website is gourmetgarlicgardens.com, and he lives near us. I've been able to meet him and visit with him, and it's been really interesting to be able to learn so much about garlic. It's one of my favorite things to grow because it's so easy, and because it grows in the wintertime and no bugs bother it. So you can kind of plant it and forget it, which is my kind of gardening. There we go. Okay. Now then. Put this through the garlic press. make it small. This was my mother-in-law's garlic press. The kids got me a nice one for Christmas one year, but it broke a while back, so I'm back to using this old one, so which is fine. It still works fine. You can chop it if you don't have a garlic press. It's just mince it fine. All right, now then, what's next? Quarter teaspoon of cinnamon and a quarter teaspoon of nutmeg. Just enough to just barely taste it. You might, if you don't know what's in there, you might not even know it has these spices in it. And I'm going to do a real scant quarter teaspoon. I'm not going to be generous with it. I just want just a dab. There we go. And my nutmeg, I have a little grater. I only use whole nutmeg. It has so much more flavor than the already ground stuff does. Okay, it looks like I used up my last parcel one recently, so I'll start with a whole one. And since this is the only thing I use this grater for, I just I don't worry about. I throw it in the dishwasher every once in a while, but I don't worry about it all the time. And it just run the nutmeg over this. This outer skin is sometimes sold separately as a spice called mace, but it's all nutmeg, so I don't separate it out. Just give it a good grate here. That's going to be about a quarter teaspoon. About about 1/5 or 20% of the nutmeg itself. And then I had this the container that I bought nutmegs in one time years ago, and it's so good I kept it. Now I just buy the ones in the in the cellophane packages and refill it because it fits good in my spice rack. Alrighty, now then, this calls for 1 strip of fresh orange zest, which I don't have on hand. I often have oranges, but I don't right now. And it also calls for a teaspoon of sugar. What I do have is I preserved some orange zest. I made candied orange slices, orange peel before, and that's just fine. But this year I'm hoping to get around to making some fruit cakes. So I wanted it to be tender. So what I did is I just put the zest into some sugar syrup, gave it a little boil, and then just stuck it in the whole thing in the refrigerator. And so I'm not gonna put the sugar in, since this has got sugar in it already, and I'm just gonna pull out a little slice there and put that in there. And then my tomatoes, these are my tomatoes that I grew. I canned about 150 pounds of them, 56 quarts, 58 quarts, something like that. Plus I canned products with tomatoes in them, some foods, and then we ate a lot of them, and I just cored them and dipped them in boiling water and gave them a quick peel, and then just popped them into the jars and canned them like that with covered it with water or with tomato juice, depending on what I had. And so that's going to go in here in my pot. If you're using store-bought tomatoes, you want one of those 14.5-ounce cans, just a regular size can of them with the liquid. Okay, let me put this in. And next I need a half a cup of red wine. Okay. I think I've said before, we don't drink, but I cook with alcoholic beverages. So, so we have this pantry that looks like it has people with drinkers with good taste, and nope, it just all goes into the food. I've also been, it's like I said, since I don't drink, it's kind of funny, but I've also been the last few years trying my hand at making different liqueurs and things as Christmas gifts, and that's been kind of fun. Some of them the kids have really enjoyed, and some of them they don't ever mention again, so that's the way I tell whether it was a success or not. If they just never say another word, it's like, okay. All right. Now, I'm going to let that simmer for about an hour, and then I'm going to chop up and saute my onion until it's brown and add it. So I'll be back then. Okay, I'm back, I think. This new camera came with a little short tabletop tripod. So I'm trying to learn how to use the new tripod. We have a full-size one that, you know, stands on the floor, which is great, but this one will be even easier for me to use once I get the hang of it. So now I'm going to see where I am here. There we go. All right, now I'm going to saute my other onions, and now since these were supposed to be little pearl onions, what I've done is I've given them a rough chop. Let me see where you can see it. Into pretty large pieces, and I didn't bother separating the centers or anything because I want them to kind of stay visible, so that you notice them in the dish. I just tasted of it, and it's got a much milder flavor than I would have anticipated. It's very, very mild, so I don't think you have to be worried about using the spices in it. And I took the lid off because it's very liquidy. Several of the folks who rated the recipe, I found it at All Recipes, said that they thickened the gravy after a while. Right before they got ready to serve it. So I may do that. We'll just see if it cooks down with my lid off of it. So now I'm going to brown these onions, and then I'll be back. Okay, now then, the recipe says to, whoops, let me get this turned where I can see what I'm doing. I have to look at the screen. The recipe says to caramelize the onions real well, get them really nicely browned, because you want that flavor from them. And so, as you can see, these are good and brown. So we're gonna just pour them in to our hot broth. There we go. Get these last little bits, nubbins out of there. All right, now then, there we go. All right, we're gonna let this simmer for about another half hour. Then I'll be back and show you how it looks. Okay, Paul, give it a taste. Let's see how it tastes.
It's hot. It's good.
Is it good?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, good. Okay, great. All right. We served it over mashed potatoes. We had some leftover mashed potatoes. Other people have said they did it over rice or over noodles. But
Oh, that's good.
okay, great. All right. Thanks a bunch, folks. See y'all later.